Okay, solving trig equations, number 1. Gina was working here and she did this work. Solve the following equation for all real values, express your answer to 3 decimals, and she got started. And then we have to finish this. Okay, so did her factoring come out right? 3 squared, yep. A minus 15 and a plus 1, yep, and yep. Okay, so that was good. So the next would be that sine theta equals negative a third, and sine theta equals positive a 5. Okay, so now this would be sine negative. So I'm in those 2 quadrants. And then I'm going to sine inverse positive 1/3. And when I do that, I get a 0.3398. So that's the amount of space in between where I am and the x-axis. So here I'm going to do pi plus, and here I'm going to do 2 pi minus that amount. So to 3 decimal places, this is 3.481 and 5.943. Okay, because she was asked to find all real values, then I'm going to have to say this or any revolution of it. Okay, on this, there's no solution because sine can't go above 1. And if you want to type that in, you're going to get an error. Okay, which of the following represents a general solution where tan of the angle equals 1 or negative 1? So tan is negative in here and here, and tan of an angle is a y divided by an x. So these numbers will have to be the same to equal 1. That's my understanding. So thinking about that, where are they the same? Right here. Obviously one's negative, one's positive. That's how I'm creating the negative 1. And so that's my unit circle values. Now which one of these is that answer? Okay, so I'm going to look at C and D here. So this says any full circle, if you rotate from here, a full circle, your next answer is there. So that's not what I want. And here, every time I rotate a half circle, I get to another answer. So if you're here and you rotate a half circle, that's an answer. That's right. And another half circle, that's another answer. So D. Number 3, solving this equation over this interval. And so we want to be in radian mode. Okay, so I'm going to try to factor this. Simple trinomial, 1 times a 4 plus 3. So now cosecant theta equals positive 1 or negative 4. So we don't work with cosecant, so we got to flip it to sine. So if I flip 1, I get 1. If I flip this, I get negative a quarter. Okay, so this is on the unit circle. So where is y1? In this position. So here my angle will equal pi over 2. And in here, this is not on a unit circle, so quadrants, where sine is negative. I'm going to sine inverse with using 1/4, and I get 0.2527. Okay, I'm just leaving it on my calculator. So now here I'm going to go pi plus that, and I get, let me see, 3.394. And then here I'm going to go 2 pi minus that, and on that I'm going to get 6.031. There's your 3 answers. Solve the following over the interval. So again, I'm going to be radian mode. So here tan of the angle is 3, tan of the angle is -1. So tan is positive here and here. I'm going to tan inverse 3. And when I do that, I get 1.249. So this would be 0 plus. So that would just be 1.249. And here would be pi plus that. So on that one, I get 4.391. And here I know that tan on the unit circle, I can get a 1. So this is my thought on the unit circle. Okay, I can see that this y divided by that x would be a -1. Okay, so on my unit circle, 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. And if you forget that that was on the unit circle, you can still do the inverse of 1, and you can get your decimal answers as well. That's fine. Okay, number 5. What's the solution for this? So let's think. Where is x -1/2? That's where I'm thinking. So on my unit circle, where is x -1/2? Right here and right here. So that's what I'm looking at on my unit circle. So which answer will work for that? So what are we finding here? We're going to go with this one. Okay, the difference is this is half circle, which is not going to work. So the answer is C. Okay, use the quadratic formula to solve. Okay, so tan theta equals -b, so -2.8 plus or minus 2.8 squared minus 4 bracket 1 bracket 1.96 all over 2 times 1. Okay, so when I do this, I always say what is the square root piece, and putting this into my calculator, I get 0. Okay, so if I'm going to actually add or subtract the square root of 0, that's irrelevant. So just what is -2.8 divided by 2. So that comes out to -1.4. So that was algebra. So now tan is negative. And then I'm going to tan inverse a 1.4. When I do that, I get 0.9505. So therefore, this angle is going to be 2 pi minus that amount. So 5.333. And here, I'm going to do pi minus that amount. So on this one, I get 2.191. Given this equation, verify that that is a solution. So we can just plug that in. Okay, so what is the sine of pi over 2? So when we're here, what is the y value? So that's a 1. So 2 times 1 squared minus 3 times 1 plus 1 equals 0. So 1 squared is 1, so that's just 2. So 2 subtract 3, negative 1 plus 1, 0. And now I've verified it. Explain why this has no solution. Well, secant is the opposite of cos. Okay, so secant is the reciprocal of cosine. Thus, cos of the angle equals 4. Cosine trig values cannot be higher than 1. So that will not work. Number 9. So we have a Tala that is incorrectly solving for this. Okay, so here's the work. 2 secant, so she looks like she moved the 5 and the 2 and then said no solution because secant can't be greater than 1. Explain her error. So she didn't switch it to cosine. So that's her thinking. She was thinking that secant can't be greater than 1, and she forgot to switch. So cosine can't be greater than 1. She forgot to switch, and then she made that error. Determine the correct solution. Okay, so once we were there, that was fine. So now I'm going to go cos of x equals 2/5, which will have a solution. So cos is positive here and here. So I'm going to cos inverse 2/5. Okay, we need to be in degree mode here because of that. Okay, so cos inverse, and I'm getting a 66.4218. So this would just be 0 plus, and this would be 360 minus. So here, x, the angle x, equals 66.422 degrees. And then on the 360 minus that angle, to 93.578. Solve. Okay, I'm going to try to factor. So tan angle 4 times 1. So tan angle equals 1 or 4. So this is on the unit circle where tan is positive. So root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2, right? Y divided by x would equal 1. That's where I'm looking. So there, so pi over 4, and there, that would be 1. So 5 pi over 4. And I'm asked to do all real values. So I'm going to say this angle, so pi over 4 plus every half circle, so pi k. Because if I rotate pi, I'm only going half a circle, which includes that. You can do these separate answers with this plus 2 pi k, this plus 2 pi k. That's fine as well. Okay, and then on this one, positive, so tan inverse of 4, I get 1.3258. So 0 plus that would still be that. And then we can say plus a pi k, because that's a half rotation, and then I include that. So if I just do a 1 pi revolution, that would include that answer. Explain why there's no solution. Okay, so cosecant angle is reciprocal of sine angle. Thus, sine angle would equal -2 over 1, and the sine of an angle cannot be less than -1. Number 12, solve over the interval. Okay, so if I try to factor this 2 times 1, it's not going to get me 6, so I'm going to have to go with the quadratic formula. So -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So sine theta equals -6 plus or minus some kind of square root value. So now I go to my calculator. That turns out to be 44. So in my calculator, I'm going to be typing this, -6 plus root 44 brackets divided by 2. And then I'm going to do that again with a subtract. Okay, so on this one I get 0.316. Okay, I got to keep that on my calculator. And then I'm going to move forward from there, keeping that on my calculator. Okay, so sine there is positive. I'm going to sine inverse 0.316 ... showing you that that's on my calculator. And then I get 0.322 because I'm in radians. So here the angle would be 0.322 and 2.819. Sorry, that was 0 plus, and this was pi minus. Okay, now I'm going back here. So when I do this calculation, I get -6.316 ... keeps going. Now when I am thinking about the solution for that, here there would be no solution. Okay, we can't inverse that. Solve this. So the factoring's already done. So now sine of the angle is 1/2, and sine of the angle equals -1. These are both on the unit circle. So I'm looking on the unit circle. Where is y 1/2? So right here and right here. This is all real values, so I'm going to have to include the revolutions. So the angle equals pi over 6 plus 2 pi k. K is any integer. And 5 pi over 6 plus any revolutions. Sine of -1 is also on my unit circle. So that's at 3 pi over 2, where the y is a -1. So that's where I'm looking. So 3 pi over 2 plus any revolutions. Solving this equation, okay, let's try to factor it here. So 3 sine, a 1 sine.
Diamond Millette and Ethan Schmidt, please report to the office. And just a reminder, if you bought IGA gift cards, please stop by the office.
Okay, if I do a 2, that makes a 6, and a 4, which makes a 4. And if I go -6, -4, nope, that's actually not going to work. Let's try this the other way. Let's go with a 4 here and a 2 here, because I can go -12 and +2. So that one works. The other one didn't because it was making a +8. So this works. Okay, ready? 3 sine squared, yep. -12 and a +2, yep, and -8. So here, sine angle equals -2/3 and sine angle equals 4. I'm going to do this one first because there's no solution. Sine can't be above 1. This one is not on my unit circle. Bottom quadrants, I'm going to sine inverse 2/3. And
Well, you hide away.
so when I inverse that, I get a value of 0.729, etc. So I'm going to go pi plus that number, and so therefore my angle will equal 3.871, and 2 pi minus that number in my calculator, that will equal 5.553. Okay, this is the answer to which one of these. So I'm just going to talk about where these are. So pi over 6, we're right here. And 5 pi over 6 is right here. So what do those have the same? They both have a y value of 1/2. So y values are sine. So that would be the answer. It's a sine angle equaling 1/2. Describe the error that was made when solving for the equation. Okay, so this algebra looks funny. So they tried to isolate instead of making equation equal 0, then trying to factor or formula. When you have sine squareds and sines, you can't be trying to isolate. That would be a factoring technique. Okay, so that's the most important thing, making sure it equals 0 before you're trying to do your algebra with the factoring. Solve this equation algebraically. So I'm going to try to factor here 2 cos and a 1 cos. think if I put the 5 there, I get a 10 and a 1 here. So 10 and 1 will make 9. So plus 10 minus 1. Yep, and yep. So cos angle equals 1/2 and cos angle equals -5. I'm going to do this one first because I know that there's no solution. Can't be less than -1. And here, this is on the unit circle. So if I look on the unit circle, where is x 1/2? Right there and right there. I'm in radians, so pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. Okay, solve. Let's see if this factors. So 3 sine angle, 2 sine angle. That gets me my 6 squared, and 1 times 1. I need a plus 1, so if I do this outside with a plus 3 and a minus 2, so sine angle equals 1/3 or -1/2. This is on the unit circle, so I'm going to do that one first. -1/2. So where is y -1/2? This one is not on the unit circle. Okay, so I'm going to quadrant 1 and 2. I'm going to sine inverse. And then I get in radian mode. So 0.3398. So this would be technically 0 plus. So that angle is 0.340. And here I would do pi minus. So on that, I get 2.802. So 4 answers. Number 19, this was an incorrect solution. So let's see where they went wrong. So moving that over, and where is sine of the angle -1? Describe the error that was made. So this is the error in the communicating. So the angle equals 270, not the trig value for sine of the angle. Okay, so all the math part was right. Yep, that was right. Yes, that's where it works. Okay, but this should not be there. Solving for 20 here. So secant of the angle equals -2. So isolated. Now I'm going to switch secant to cos and flip. That's a unit circle value. So on the unit circle, where is x? -1/2. So right here and here. So 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3 is the solution for the angle. Solving for that. So this is on the unit circle again. So where does y equal -√3/2? So I'm looking here and here. So this angle is 4 pi over 3 plus any revolution, because it says all angles. And this on the unit circle is 5 pi over 3 plus any revolutions. Verify that this angle is a solution. So I'm going to insert the angle into the equation. Okay, so what is the cos of 4 pi over 3? So 4 pi over 3, we're in our unit circle. What is the x value? That's what we talk about with cos. So 4 pi over 3, what is the x value? Negative a half. So negative a half goes in place of that. So I still have to do the math. Okay, so I'm going to square this first. So negative 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. What is 4 times a quarter? 1. So that equals 0, and yes. Okay, solving, I'm going to try to factor. Let's see if it would work. It's a simple trinomial, multiplies to 8, 4 times 2. So that works. So cosecant of the angle is negative 4 or 2. So we're going to flip this to sine. So negative a quarter or a half. This is on the unit circle, so I'm going to do that one first. And we're in radians, so where is y a half? Those two places, so pi over 6. And at 5 pi over 6. Then this is not on the unit circle, so I'm going to go into those quadrants. I'm going to sine inverse a quarter. And when I do that, I'm going to get 0.5 or 0.252. Obviously still keeping on my calculator. So pi plus that number is 3.394, and 2 pi minus that number is 6.031. Okay, solving algebraically, it's already factored. So here, sine x would equal 0. And on this, secant x would be negative 3, which turns into a cos of negative a third. This is on the unit circle. So where is y equal to 0? So here and here. Okay, let's be careful here. We can answer 0. So x could equal 0. X could equal pi. X cannot equal 2 pi because of the round bracket. Okay, and this is not on the unit circle. So cos is negative. And then cos inverse of the 1/3. So I get 1.23. So pi minus that and pi plus that will get me an x angle of 1.911 and 4.373. There's your 4 answers. Verify that this is true for pi over 6. So 2 times the cos of pi over 6 squared has to equal the sine of pi over 6 plus 1. So if I look on my unit circle at pi over 6, so I'm just writing my coordinate here so I have reference to it. So this is the cos and this would be the sine value of it. So 2 times root 3 over 2 squared, and this would be a 1/2 plus 1. So when I square this, that would make a whole number 3, and that would make a 4. When I add, I'm going to change that to 2 over 2. Okay, so this makes, I'm going to cancel a 2, and so it gets 3 over 2, and this is 3 over 2, and I verified. Okay, so sine is a half. I have to figure out which angles it will work for. So sine is a half right here and a here. Okay, so let's talk about how we got there. So we could do a rotation like that. So the angle could be pi over 6. We could do a rotation like that. So this angle is 5 pi over 6. We could have rotated like that. So that angle is negative 7 pi over 6. Or we could rotate like that to get there. And that angle is negative 11 pi over 6. So you have 4 answers. Okay, because of this domain. But it's just these positions. I'm trying to get to those positions. Okay, I'm going to solve by factoring. So I'm going to use a 4, I think, to do that as an 8. 8 and 1. So here, sine angle equals negative 1/2. And this one is 4. This one will have no solution. Sine can't go above 1. And here, this is on the unit circle. So where's y negative 1/2? So in these spots, so this angle is 7 pi over 6 plus any rotation. And this one is 11 pi over 6 plus any rotations of it. Okay, 28. Kennedy was asked to solve this equation and describing the error on this. So I think that the mistake that was made was in the domain. So the error was answering for every real angle. So Kennedy needs to add plus 2 pi k. K is any integer to the angles to include all the answers. Okay, solving algebraically. Let's see if this would factor. So 3 sine, 1 sine. If I put the 2 and 1, that's 6 and 1, not making a 6. 1 and 2, that does not make a 6. So it's not factorable. Therefore, I'm going to go with the formula. So sine angle equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So So I'm going to get this square root piece, which is 12. Okay, so sine angle in my calculator, I'm going to be typing this. So that trig value is negative 0.422, etc. So now I'm going to draw the quadrants. I'm going to sine inverse 0.422, etc. Okay, keeping on my calculator the whole time. So when I do that, I get pi plus 0.436 is the reference there. So this angle will equal 3.578. And then, so my reference was 0.436, so 2 pi minus. And I get 5.847. Now I'm going to do the other solution, so negative 6 minus root 12. And I get negative 1.577. And then on that, there will be no solution. I cannot sine inverse something outside that domain of -1.